Hello and welcome to day 9 of the Wellbeing Essentials. Today we're going to be talking about rest and recovery. Now, some people see rest as a waste of time. It involves sitting around doing nothing and generally not living life to the full. That is just not the case, and I like to think that from what you've seen over the last couple of days on this course, you can start to understand that actually it's really important for your wellbeing journey. It's really important for you to maintain health and to achieve all of these things that you want to achieve in your life. So what is rest exactly? Well, it's actually a physiological state. It's a state of body and mind, and it's one that allows us to adapt and to grow and to rest and to recover and to progress. It basically allows us to do all those things that we need to do in order to survive. To explain how it works, I'm going to discuss a little bit of science with you. There is one particular nervous system in the body called the autonomic nervous system, and this is the one that works automatically with very little conscious input, and it splits into two separate systems. The first one is called your sympathetic nervous system, and this is the one that is nicknamed fight or flight, which I'm sure we've all heard of before. So it tends to govern and dominate our bodies when we are in a state of alertness. So when the body is being stimulated by something like movement. The other branch of the autonomic nervous system is the parasympathetic nervous system, and this one dominates and governs when we're in our state of rest or restfulness. So it allows us to do all of these adaptation things that are really, really important. But we cannot do this if we do not leave the state of alertness. So how do we do that? Via relaxation. Relaxation is like the transition state, the transition phase between alertness and restfulness. It allows the body and the mind to wind down to enable all of these adaptive processes to take place. And herein lies the problem for a lot of us. We are really bad at relaxing. So what happens is that the body is very clever, and this has to happen. If this doesn't happen, then we die. So what the body does is it forces us into this process using fatigue mechanisms. And that's what chronic stress is. It's the body forcing you into adaptation and response via all of these quite miserable and quite nasty processes that are not very nice to experience. And they have a pretty disastrous effect on our health. So we don't want that. We don't want to be forced into this. We want to do it proactively. We want to make it happen ourselves. This is what this lesson is about. It's about being proactive and relaxing. So how do we do this? Well, it depends, because the body and the mind relax in different ways. The body needs relaxation and rest and recovery from physical exertion, whereas the brain needs it from cognitive exertion. So we relax in different ways for each of those two different things. Now, we're generally speaking much better at getting physical relaxation, and that's because our body has receptors in that allow us to sense what's going on. So we know when we're getting tired, we know if we need to slow down or if we need to stop, and so we do it. But with our brain, we don't have those receptors, we don't have that physical sensation up there. So it means we're not very good at noticing the onset of these fatigue mechanisms. And this is the area that we really need to concentrate on. Now, you might be surprised to hear that actual psychological relaxation does not involve sitting around doing nothing. To get the best sort of brain rest and recovery, we need to be doing small, fairly untaxing tasks. So things like reading, things like housework, things like colouring in. Have you heard of mindfulness colouring in? Well, that's what this is all about. Mindfulness and meditation. All of these sorts of things allow the brain to start winding down, which allows it to get into this adaptation phase. Some people even find that exercise and movement is a good way to relax the brain, and this is true. You can actually relax the brain whilst working the body. The two don't have to happen at the same time. So people can de-stress really well by going to the gym, or by gardening, or by walking, as we discussed the other day. Now, this might also sound a little odd to you, but we actually also need social relaxation. And that basically involves us being on our own or in a level of reduced interaction, a place of reduced interaction, that allows us to process all of the interactions that we've had recently. Now, some people call this social gardening, and I really like that term. It's the idea of getting rid of the weeds, so getting rid of the stuff that you don't need, and then pruning and looking after all of those interactions and relationships that are really important to you. It is a really important part of our well-being. And it's also becomes more important the more introverted you are. So if you're introverted, or if you see yourself as an introvert, then social gardening and social rest and relaxation becomes really important. Now, we couldn't discuss all of this without also talking about sleep. Sleep is massive, and I'm sure we all know how important it is now. And from what we've discussed over the last couple of days, I like to think you understand why it is so important. Because it allows these adaptive and responsive phases to occur. Now, most of us know, what do they say now, 7 hours that we should be having a night? Well, we're all different. 6 might work for you. You might need 8, 9, 10, whatever works. The fact is, we still can be quite bad at it. Now, there are some medical conditions where the reason for this struggle is because of physical problems. But for most of us, the reason that we struggle with sleep is because of this same issue. It's because we're not very good at relaxing. We need to wind down the body and the mind to be able to sleep properly. Now, there are lots of different ways you can do that, but the best way is an hour or two before bed each evening, do something that allows you to relax the body, but more importantly, to relax the mind. And this brings us on to today's task, and I'm sure you know what's coming your way. That is it. You are going to be proactive and relax. Now, there was actually a really good talk. It's actually a 3-part series on BBC Radio 4 towards the end of last year, and it discussed rest and relaxation in detail. And it discussed this big survey that was done, and I've put a link below to the results of this survey, and it's called the Top 10 Most Restful Activities. Number 10 was mindfulness and meditation. Actually, that came in at 10. Number 1 was reading. I think they surveyed something like 20,000 people, but there are 8 others within there. So have a look at the link and see what other people find works for them. See if you can find something on there that's going to work for you. Yes, we need the body to relax, but try and find something in there that's going to allow you to psychologically relax as well, just to try and wind your mind down to allow you to kick in all of these really important processes. There were also a number of other good links on that page, so by all means have a little dig around it and see what else you can learn about rest and recovery. Now, relaxation isn't easy, okay? It's actually a skill, and you can teach yourself to become better at it. I'm sure if you've ever tried meditation, then you'll know that when you first start, it's really difficult to get your brain to switch off. Well, actually, you'll learn that you never get your brain to switch off. It's always on, so you just have to learn about how to deal with it, how to deal with those thoughts coming in and how you let them go without too much cognitive energy or effort. So when you try this stuff, be patient, okay? It's not going to happen straight away. If something doesn't work for you, then try something else. If that doesn't work, then don't worry about it, try something else, or leave it a little while and then try again. Whatever happens, be patient. Give yourself some of that self-compassion that we've discussed, and just bit by bit, keep trying. Eventually you should find that you start to notice the results get a bit better, and it will allow you to enjoy it and start to move towards this well-being goals and this well-being journey that you're on. Now, there you go. That brings us to the end of day 9. And this is actually the end of the physical component of the course. Tomorrow we're going to move on to the social component, and we're going to discuss how your relationships and your connections are really important for your well-being journey. Until then, if you've got any questions or reflections on today, then by all means get in touch. But otherwise, enjoy your relaxation, make the most of it, and I will see you tomorrow.